Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture, and today we're going to be talking about the newest project from Sexmaster called All Posers Must Die. You know, I feel like I should be giving you all some context for this review, and while there's a part of me that just wants to say context is for posers and move on, I at least have to take you back to last Saturday night, January 6, 2018. It's late, it's absolutely freezing outside in Toronto, but after a long afternoon of filming and editing, I decided to head out to one of my favorite metal bars, where, lo and behold, there is a tape release party for the newest project from the local duo Sexmaster, released by Craniophagus Parasiticus Records. Now, a few disclaimers to all this. I know both the members of the band, Matt Black and Struan Robinson, the latter who you might recognize as the drummer behind the Canadian metal group Ammo. And they're cool guys, and while I would say we're more acquaintances than real friends, I do see them on a regular basis. They're probably gonna see this review. Now, I'm also acutely aware that Sexmaster is a bit of a tough duo to categorize. I mean, they're local cult metal icons and definitely are talented enough to earn the acclaim they've received, but for those of you coming in from outside that cult, I can see some of this whole thing feeling a little bit ridiculous. Or maybe their appeal is best understood in a live setting, which is kind of fitting because this new project was recorded live. And while both those statements are probably true, I also need to stress that I'm still bringing all my critical due diligence to bear on this. After all, I wouldn't want to disparage the awesome might of Sexmaster by going easy on them or something. That would just make me a poser. So, with all that established, what do we get on All Posers Must Die? Well, I'm of a few minds on a project like this. On the one hand, I can see that the average mainstream pop fan or even a metalhead being kind of skeptical of something like this, because it clearly is targeting the local, homegrown metal crowd that still chooses to actually release projects on a tape over CD. And to those folks who don't really know that scene or don't have any familiarity with a more DIY punk aesthetic, you would probably turn up your nose to a project like this if you hadn't already. Probably not aware that most punk and underground metal acts started with this sort of vein. And you know what? I get the lack of knowledge in this case. Projects like this rarely ever get coverage, let alone a formal review on a site like this. And when you factor in that this is primarily a live recording, the cards are stacked even higher against Sexmaster here. And yet, you know what? I can't even deny I enjoyed this a fair bit. Now, it definitely has its flaws, and we'll get to that, but if we're giving a pass to so many lo-fi SoundCloud hip-hop releases in the mainstream right now, I don't see why Sexmaster doesn't deserve a seat at the table, because this isn't half bad. Now granted, the biggest obstacle many will face with a tape like this is the sound quality and the mixing, because this was a project recorded live in a dank underground metal bar, and you can definitely tell. You can hear the shouts and whoops of the crowd, the cymbals sound alternatively a little muddy or a tad too tinny, and all the tones have this grimy, hollow, lo-fi sound that doesn't dampen the guitars or the kick drums, but it doesn't exactly sharpen them all that much either. You can tell this was not recorded in a studio, and they're lucky that the metal bar in question has as great acoustics as it does. It lets the feedback resonate but not echo or muddy the mix, or let the low end have as much texture as it does without sounding blown out. And even then, you could tell that whoever was recording this was doing so from a specific position within the room with respect to the guitar and the drums, because the distinctive placement of those sounds within the mix will definitely come through, as in the guitars might be on one ear but the drums would be in the other, which for some listeners might sound amateurish or kind of distracting. But you know what, in a sense I appreciate that. It thoroughly captures the placement and atmosphere that Sexmaster will cultivate live. The seething roar of Matt Black's guitar work and growling on one side, bouncing against Struan Robertson's frankly insane drumming on the other, with you just being trapped in the middle. And when this record nails the placement of this recording, it can make for a really quite immersive experience. The haunting echo of the vocal howls on Cellar door against the more progressive drumline and tremolo riffs, or the filthy charging riffing on Posers to the Back with the demented switch up midway through the song, or the curdled yet kind of propulsive groove that fits the most developed song in this project, We Died for Rock So Rock Could Live. And yeah, all the song titles are just like that, just to put you on the right mindset. And you know what, that's kind of important to note. The 8 tracks here are playing to a very loose jam band structure just to rock out, with Robertson's dense blast beat drumming providing some foundation for Black's melodic riffs to build some speed or intensity of their own. If we get vocals, they're often blunt, they're guttural, they're direct, they're to the point. great, but they don't really need a lot more to cultivate that cacophonous vibe and get you in the right mood. And that's one of the two hidden keys to why the Sexmaster tape works at all. Both Black and Robertson are pretty damn solid behind their respective instruments, careening across genres of metal or even punk with songs like Nazi black metal fuck off, with the skill in the shredding to compensate for some pretty minimalist song structures. Hell, you almost don't even realize that there isn't a bass line or a bass guitar because the percussion grooves uncannily balance out all the spiky guitar work. Even if on songs like the opener, intro, Masters of Sex, it gets a little bit for the two to properly get in sync with their rhythms. And it really nails these fragments of raw emotion so effectively you almost don't really notice the second element, and that's one that's always key to good live projects: the background. Now, I've already mentioned how damn good the acoustics are for capturing the right vibe, but I like how Sexmaster keeps in the whoops and the chants, and especially on the outro, All Posers Must Die Part 3, you get the half-heard conversations of, hey, that was pretty decent, or yeah, I kinda like this. It's almost inconsequential, borderline surprised, but it feeds into the whole Sexmaster experience of seeing them live. A duo who nobody really expects to take all that seriously, who brings so much raw talent to the table regardless that it's almost a communal experience to absorb the surprise of the show. It's one reason why I actually don't mind the rough edge recording much at all, in the same way I don't mind crackles of feedback or a more lo-fi pickup. It's texture to the mix, and outside of actually being there, it's a pretty immersive way to appreciate the Sexmaster experience if you're not in that Toronto metal bar. So as a whole, okay, look, even for most metalheads, this is kind of a tough sell. It's guttural, it's basic, there's complexity in the arrangement, but not all that much. It's borderline punk at points, and the recording quality definitely shows some of the budget. But you know what? If you include into the DIY underground tone, the raw talent on display, and a remarkably immersive recording at the same, it leads to an experience that will stick with you more than you might think. It's kind of infectious. Music that doesn't exactly adhere to a genre within extreme metal, but it's got some charm to it all the same. For me, light 7 out of 10, definitely a recommendation. An acquired taste for sure, but if a project like this doesn't draw you towards Sexmaster, you know what? I'm not sure what will. You'll want to check this out regardless, though. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. I know a lot of you probably haven't heard anything about this band, and this review might be a bit of a surprise, but hey, you're going to want to check it out. Links to buy in the description below. And if you actually did hear it, I've got the poll up there. I'm curious what you guys might think about it. I don't typically cover these sort of live, raw, underground recordings, but yeah, this one clicked for me. Beyond that, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if you guys want to get involved in my scheduling process or support this channel, link to my Patreon is right over there, where 3 times a week you guys get to vote on my schedule, and once a week for the higher tier contributors, you guys get to add albums, movies, or even a special top 10 list to that schedule. We got one of those coming up pretty soon. Beyond that, if you actually want to see my schedule, link to my Instagram, where I'm now posting them. Beyond that, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.